Good morning. My name is Andrew Smith. Some of my friends call me Frog. I am a retired, exiled ex-preacher teacher, and I don't know why, but I felt incredibly inspired this morning to do a live stream. Toward the end of my official preaching and teaching career, I was in I still teach for a job, but I was a Sunday morning teacher preacher. And toward the end, all I was doing was coming to this back room of my house and doing a live stream, because that was in early days of the pandemic. And I thought I can still do a live stream if I feel like it. And I'm feeling particularly motivated and inspired this morning to do a brief teaching on what is known as Christ the King Sunday, or Reign of Christ Sunday in the liturgical year. And when I was going to a Christian church regularly, I was going to a Presbyterian church, and along with the Methodists and the Lutherans and the Episcopalians and, of course, the Catholics, we are liturgical lectionary churches, and we follow the arc of the church here. And I'm just going to read very briefly one line out of the text for this morning. It comes from John chapter 18, verse 36. Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not from this world. My kingdom is not from this world." And so the other day, it might have been Tuesday, a very famous progressive preacher person that I really admire on social media, that I've seen speak in public on multiple occasions. I've bought and gotten signed many of their books. I might say I've gone to see them preach in their hometown. I might even say I am a serious fanboy to this public preacher. Well, this public preacher took to their Twitter page, and there are 120,000 followers on the Twitter, and said that Christ the King was originally established by the Catholic Church to fight fascism in theology and the world. And it said, "Happy Antifa Sunday." And I thought that was so cute. I reposted it without really thinking. And I wanted it to be true. I wanted this to be Antifa Sunday, right? I mean, we're living in a time of rising white supremacy, white nationalism, Christian nationalism. Who doesn't need a good, if you are a lefty lover of Jesus like me, a spiritual person on the left here in the United States, who doesn't need a good, anti-fascist message? But a dear friend of mine, a little bit older friend than me, and I'm in my 50s, I'm no baby, posted, this is cute, but it's not true. And they posted a historical article about the Pope that the tweeter was claiming to be Antifa. And I went and I've spent several days reading up on this, reading several different articles and different sources. And it actually turns out that not only was the Pope who promoted Christ the King Sunday not anti-fascist, they actually worked with fascists. The only generous reading that you could make, that you would call it that, is that they were calling for a kind of theocracy, a kind of Christian state, that the Catholic Church was above the state, a kind of a reign of Roman Catholicism that transcended even the state. But it wouldn't be really religious diversity. It wouldn't be modernism. It wouldn't be inclusive interfaith work. It would not support artists or Democrats or anarchists or communists or any of the people, that I sometimes have known to run with. And I found this one quote by William P. Myers that would, and remember that this is less than 100 years ago that we had fascism all over the world, in Europe especially. But this William Myers, on a historical website that he has written, says, "If the rise of Mussolini with the help of Pius XI had been an isolated incident in history, there might be a stronger argument that Mussolini would have come to power anyway, and that Pius was just doing the best he could with a bad situation. However, given that Pius XI endorsed the fascist corporate state in encyclical, and that he helped both Hitler and Franco gain dictatorial powers, the specifics of Mussolini's rise to power must be seen as part of Pius's plan, not as an exception." And so not only was this Pope not anti-fascist, he was supporting and helping the fascists. And just a few little, tidbits in here that, and I think, later on there were some objections to how Hitler did it, kind of thing. But there was actually concentration camps in Italy, and there was actually the anti-Semitism of Hitler's terrorist reign spread all over Europe, and there was anti-Jewish laws even in Italy, and this sort of soft protest, that Pius would later do would be to say something along the lines of, well, maybe the Jewish people who have converted to Catholicism shouldn't be treated as Jews, and that was sort of, if you convert, then we won't be discriminating against you and supporting the horrible things that happen, and history, shows us what was done in the Holocaust, and we don't really entertain Holocaust deniers, over here. So that's something to think about, and then but the joining of Catholicism and fascism in Spain in the reign of Franco was really unbelievable. Now, understandingly, that it was a civil war, and that the revolutionaries were very anti-Catholic because they saw the Catholic Church as united with fascism. So there was, even as late as 2013, the Pope beatified, what he called the martyrs of this war, the priests who died in this war. But the kind of thing that the priests were doing is they would get lists to the nationalist forces of people who did not attend Mass, and then they would round them up later for questioning and possibly even execution. And, a lot of the people in the U.S. who claim that they are Christians don't even go to church. So can you imagine what it'd be like? You didn't go to church, we're going to round you up and kill you for not going to church. That ain't my Jesus. And so all of this inspired me to write a little bit of a sermon rant. I put it up on a blog at presbyhippie.com. And I call this Maybe Christ Isn't King. And this is my message today for Christ the King Sunday. Maybe Jesus is not king. Maybe Christ isn't king. Maybe this is better for Christians and the rest of us. Maybe church doctrine concerning Christ's kinship is just the big lie of January 6th, but it lasted almost 2,000 years. Maybe we still need Jesus's documented takedowns of worldly authority much more than we need his authority. Maybe Lord and King and God are just titles to paste like bumper stickers on the chariots of colonial conquest. Maybe all these royal pretensions are just banners to march behind. Maybe gods and masters in the abstract are as bad as popes and presidents and prime ministers in the flesh. Maybe what Christians honestly do best are confession and forgiveness and not politics and empire. And in the almost 1,700 years since the Council of Nicaea, maybe it's time to confess that we don't know what we don't know about these mysteries of faith that were supposed to be mysteries, not mallets with which to bludgeon heretics. We confess we don't know what the Trinity means. We don't know what Christ's divinity means. We definitely don't know what Christ's kingship is. And based on the earliest gospel accounts and per scholars like Bart Ehrman, it looks like Jesus himself didn't know yet either. My liberal and lefty Christian friends like to say that Jesus is Lord means that Caesar isn't. And what they really mean is that Trump isn't. But we do not say what it would be like to live without arbitrary authoritarian masters of any kind, in that inescapable network of mutuality that some of our modern prophets described as beloved community. But what does Jesus as Lord and King really mean? Isn't the mocking of Jesus by the authorities and the passion narratives so important? Because Jesus, in his earthly ministry, mocked all ecclesial and political authority and gestures of loving subversion and miraculous sabotage at every turn. Cultural and literary scholars at least make prescient overtures to the presence of Jesus really being about overturning tables as well as priestly and authoritarian impulses, not creating new orders of priests. Stealing from scholars, stealing from the gospel about the passion and its mockery. Soldiers spitting and taunting actually invert coronation with an anti-coronation. Contempt instead of reverence, crowning with cruel crowns of thorns and casting random lots for royal robes. Is this not the radically inverted ceremony of the carnivalesque, only foreshadowing the carnival of beloved revolution when the first really are last, and when the spoils of the 1% really are distributed among the world's poor? Of course, poets and artists and some preachers and theologians and other radicals have always understood this ironic and destabilizing theater to be brilliant, tragic, and poetic part of the Passion and the Cross. Even the songs of Christmas, as they deploy regal and royal imagery, do require that we are siblings of slaves. Also, that women are the magnifying rebels that deny rich rulers. Also, that infant rulers rule by the tyranny of powerlessness and tears and needy appetites and childlike wonder. But friends, you know this to be true. The actual cradle and the actual cross have been too inconvenient to accept for power-hungry Christians for a long time. They prefer lobbying for the unborn prophets and refuse the basic stipends needed by needy mothers to raise the world's future messiahs. They have no problem crucifying others, though, as the victims of war and torture and police brutality bleed still into our consciousness from their collective empty tombs. Bob Dylan is still singing "You Gotta Serve Somebody" decades after he abandoned his born-again phase, because the lyrics are so true. Because atheists and theists, all of us, still must choose what is our ultimate concern. I don't think we can worship worldly power and the powerless, mocked, and crucified one at the same time. And I'm not sure Jesus needs our adoration today as much as he desires our solidarity. If we only serve Jesus as King and Lord in a world that only knows the language of power, maybe we will never be able to serve alongside him as friend and fellow servant, as embodied love that is always and forever in a human body, as the love for a hungry child and a tortured prisoner and an ailing patient. So if you feel like it, we could say amen, but that is my message for Christ the Unkingdom Sunday, and let's call it a kingdom. You drop the G and you say kin. We are siblings, we are friends. We are friends, not masters. We are colleagues and associates and fellow workers to transform this world into a new world. Peace out this morning. A happy Sunday. Enjoy your day. I might get back into doing this again on Sundays whenever the Spirit moves me, and it certainly moved me this week to share a good word with each and every one of you. I hope you have a beautiful day, whatever it is that your day brings you to do. Thank you for listening.